Six Flags Discovery Kingdom originally opened as Marine World back in 1986, but in the last decade or so, they have seen a lot of investment into their ride lineup. Now, they have a decent collection of rides to pair with their animal exhibits, and today we will count down the top 15 rides that you can find at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. A few notes before starting though. 1. I will not be including any defunct attractions. Roar was a GCI wooden coaster that opened in 1999 and closed in 2015, making way for the Joker. This is a ride that would have made the list and placed outside the top 5. I will also not be including Con, the Vekoma SLC, or Boomerang Coast to Coaster, the Vekoma Boomerang. These are both sad excuses for major thrill rides and are nowhere near good enough to make the top 15. Speaking of the number 15 spot, the number 15 spot goes to Wave Swinger. Nothing too special here, a pretty traditional set of classic swings. Number 14, Ark. This is a nice family attraction for all ages, but admittedly, it's one of the weaker swinging ships I've experienced. It does have a nice location in the back of the park, but those max swings are noticeably shorter than some other rides of the genre. For that reason, it's a good family ride, but nothing more. Number 13, Boardwalk Bumper Buggies. This is your classic set of bumper cars, a staple for most amusement parks. Despite its simplicity, it's always a good time, and I always come off with a smile on my face. Number 12, Monsoon Falls. This is the first of 2 water rides we'll see on the list, and it's a classic shoot the chutes ride. These rides are very simple, you know the drill. Decent, fun drop, and a giant splash. Number 11, Cobra. This is the first roller coaster on the list, and while objectively it isn't exactly an impressive ride, it does hold a special place in my heart as my first ever roller coaster. It's only 26 feet high and only goes 22 miles an hour, so this is a perfect stepping stone coaster for kids. Plus, because it's built by Zier, you know the train is going to be comically long, and this ride certainly delivers on that. Number 10, Whitewater Safari. Just like Monsoon Falls, this water ride has the potential to get you absolutely soaked. There are some decent rapids on this, and the course isn't too bad either. It's a middle-of-the-road rapids ride, nothing too crazy, but also not the worst one I've ever seen. That said, I would love to see this park at a log flume in the future. Number 9, Scatabout. Another cloned ride, but this is a good one. It's your classic scrambler attraction. Per usual, there are some awesome laterals on this, in particular if you're sitting on the right side of the seat. I also like this ride's location, kinda set in a corner in the back of the park. Because of its placement, it'll have a manageable line even on really busy days. Number 8, Sky Screamer. This is one of the rides in the park that matches Vallejo's height limit at 150 feet, and it does provide some decent views of the coasters around you. Perhaps it spins a little faster than I might like it to, but it is the best ride in the entire park for views. If you want to get a bird's eye view of the front of the park, this is definitely the ride to do it on. Number 7, Sidewinder Safari. This new for 2022 Zamperla's Spinning Wild Mouse was a really nice addition to freshen up the back of the park. The first half of the ride is just okay. A few moments of okay laterals and a couple fun dips, but the second half is definitely the better half, in particular if you spin. It seems like you want a heavier vehicle on this one. If you have less people, you're not as likely to spin in the second half of the ride, and the more spinning, the better. It makes it a more wild experience. If you're able to get a spin going in the second half of the ride, it's a really fun time. If you're not, it's a pretty middle-of-the-road attraction. Number 6, Wonder Woman Lasso of Truth. This is the last non-coaster on the list and the best flat ride in the whole park. It's a Zamperla Giant Discovery, and a ride that provides some awesome speed. In fact, it's the fastest ride in the park at 73 miles an hour, and just like Sky Screamer, it goes 150 feet in the air. The highlight is obviously those max swings. That's where you get the most speed on the way down and the most force on the way up. The weightlessness and hang time you can get on the top of those swings is pretty wild. So in general, while I don't think I love it as much as some other coaster enthusiasts do, it is still the best flat ride that Discovery Kingdom has on offer. Number 5, Batman the Ride. We talked about Sidewinder Safari, and the more spinning on that ride, the better. Well, Batman is kinda similar, except for flipping. I believe I've ridden this 5 times now, and in those 5 rides, I've really only had one that was super crazy. A lot of the other rides I've had just 1 or 2 flips, but even 1 or 2 flips still feels pretty wild. I know that these SNS free spins are everywhere in the Six Flags chain, but outside of X2 down at Magic Mountain, there's really nothing like Batman in the entire state of California and on the entire West Coast, so I'm okay with this addition. Ops are usually decent. The one major downside is the ride time. This is a very short coaster, and if you only get 1 or maybe even 0 flips, it's not a super rewarding ride after a long wait. So the bottom line is that Batman can be a lot of fun, but don't spend too much of your time waiting in line for it. Number 4, Flash Vertical Velocity. This intimate impulse coaster is a lot of fun. The one problem is actually getting on it. This coaster has been prone to downtime for a couple of years now. In 3 of my 4 recent visits, the trains haven't even been on the track, which is definitely not a good sign. That being said, if you do get it on a day when it's open, it is a good time. The hang time on that slow motion inversion is wonderful, and there's some good punch on those launches. V2 is a fun coaster. It's just too bad that every time you ride it, you have to know that it could be your last ride. Number 3, Superman Ultimate Flight. This was the first Premier Ride Skyrocket 2, originally opening back in 2012. What they were able to fit into such a small space is really impressive, and there's a lot of good forces, airtime going up and down the tower, and wonderful hang time on that slow motion inversion, just like Flash. It's such a blur of forces going forwards and backwards and upside down and all that I always come off a little bit dizzy, but I'll take it. It's a really fun coaster and a really smooth one too. This ride's track length is listed at just 863, so foot for foot, this is probably one of the best coasters ever built. Number 2, Medusa. We've talked about a lot of cloned rides and cloned coasters today, but the top 2 at Discovery Kingdom are original rides, and Medusa is a really good one. Medusa has the most length of any coaster in the park, at almost 4,000 feet, and in those 4,000 feet, it has 7 inversions and a speed of 65 miles an hour. So it's good on the stat sheet, but it's also really good from a ride experience perspective. As far as floorless coasters go, this is one of the best ones ever built. It's smooth, it's long, it has a wide array of inversions and a couple of helixes at the end. For an inversion-based ride, layout-wise, there's almost nothing I would change. The one problem is the parking lot setting. You can see the parking lot spaces that they built this over at points. But you know what, with a layout that good, I'll forgive it. Medusa is a really good ride, but it's not as good as number 1, Joker. Medusa's great, but it's a distant second to Joker. I've talked about this ride at length on this channel before, but here's a quick rundown of this RMC. Inversions? Check. There are 3 impeccable inversions on Joker, 2 of which provide awesome hang time. Those upside down moments are probably the highlight of the ride. Airtime? You bet. This coaster may not have the strongest airtime for RMC standards, but there's plenty of it, and the first drop and the final hill give great moments of ejector air. As I alluded to in the beginning, I did enjoy Roar, but Roar has absolutely nothing on what RMC did in the conversion to Joker. Hats off to you, Rocky Mountain Construction. Another park, another RMC at the top. So there you have it, my top 15 list for the rides at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom in Vallejo, California. I enjoy a lot of the rides here, but the top 2 really does tend to carry the rest of the lineup, and there's definitely some holes in their lineup that I would love to see filled. Filling these would definitely help the park feel a bit more complete. Number 1 is a wooden coaster. They lost that when Roar was turned into Joker. Number 2 is a drop tower. Even though they have a 150-foot height limit, you can get a short drop tower that's still a lot of fun. And finally, number 3 is a log flume. In general though, I enjoy Discovery Kingdom and the rides that they have in it. So, what are your favorite rides at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, and what would you change about my list? Let me know down in the comments section below, and if you made it this far, please consider subscribing to the channel as we continue to grow. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.